Hello, everybody, and welcome to Silent Podcast, a place where everything but silent. I'm your host, Isaiah, back with a Big Brother review series to talk about, unfortunately, Big Brother 21. Yes, we are here to talk about, one of the most peculiar seasons of Big Brother, but, that's what the series is for, to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. As usual, I actually have a panel. It's very cool. I have Katie. She has been on with the Big Brother podcast with me and plenty of other podcasts here. That's on a podcast. Katie, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Ready to get into all the ugly with you guys. Excited to be here.
All right. I also have Julia. Julia also on plenty of other podcasts, including Big Brother a couple times. Julia, what's going on?
I'm doing great. I got to see Katie and Isaiah in person on Wednesday at Rap Know It Alls or RHAP Know It Alls in DC. So that made my entire week. So I'm doing pretty good.
All right, and I also got Jake. Jake, we have been on hiatus for our Marvel podcast, but I can't wait to come back for that. Jake, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing so great. I'm so ready to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, we're here to talk about all right, it's so hard to choose where we're going to start here because Big Brother 21, obvious, first of all, the winners, Jackson, Mickey. The cast was something. We have so much we can really start from. But I mean, Katie, before we get to any specifics, initial thoughts on BB21 a couple years later since it's airing.
Well, I said right before we went live that I was thinking of just like rewatching some YouTube videos and some clips and stuff before talking to you guys so it's fresh. And then I was like, I don't know if I need to really do all of that. I think it's fresh enough for me 4 years later or so. I think this season did have a few interesting moments. I won't say bright spots because there really were no bright spots, but there are a few memorable moments from this season. I think the twists were interesting or had potential to be interesting. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about for sure.
I mean, it's tough, and we can start talking about certain things, but we can start off with the cast, right? Every single time I do this podcast, I pick up the Big Brother wiki, and just looking at it, is this hard to say? Is this too harsh to say that like this is potentially the worst cast Big Brother has ever created over its 24 seasons? How do we feel about that? Because not a lot of bright spots.
So I actually did review all of the YouTube clips and refreshing. Like I watched the Peridium video. There were two other videos I reviewed. My number one impression was I would never go back to rewatch this season.
Mm-mm.
However, this is besides actually Big Brother 21, I think is the only season in the past besides Big Brother 17 that I've watched in entirety. So Big Brother 24, I did not watch from like the final 6 to the finale, but the finale was incredible. Big Brother 23, I gave up after Derek X got evicted. But I just watched clips because the cast is so fun. So Big Brother 21 was like a train wreck I could not watch or I could not stop watching. I could not stop looking away from because it was so terrible in the beginning, but then there were moments where the Grateful Eight or Undeniable or Six Shooter just completely imploded, and there was just so much drama. But yeah, definitely would never rewatch this. Most unlikable cast, I think. But really sad fact about Big Brother 21 and me is that this was the cast when it came out. It made me watch Big Brother again. So the last season I'd seen was Big Brother 17, was a pretty decent season. Big Brother 18, 19, and 20, none of those casts look appealing. But I saw Bella and I saw a commercial. I was watching CBS, and Bella's first impression was like, I'm gonna cut a bitch, and I was like, wow, this girl seems badass. And then I'm so sorry if she's listening out there, but that was a really disappointing. But seeing someone who looked like me, even though I think personalities are totally different, that pulled me in, and that's why I started watching Big Brother again. So I have a very weird relationship with Big Brother 21 because it's the only season that I've seen in full, and I got brought back for I think initially great reasons, but then was disappointed by the outcome of it.
No, for sure. I at some point I do want to talk about some of the biggest like miscasting that we've had, because there's been a lot of players over the years that like we see preseason, we're like, oh, they're gonna kill it this season, and they completely fail us, right? I think Bella is definitely up there with like some of the biggest like misplay, like we really thought that she was gonna be the it girl. Like we had so much faith in her, and my god, like she killed our expectations dramatically. So can't wait to talk about her specifically. Jake, do you have any feelings about this cast before we get started?
Yeah, so I kind of had the similar to Julia. I was super stoked when this season got announced. The cast came out. I was excited because we were riding the high of Big Brother 20. I thought Big Brother 20 was an amazing season. I thought it was a lot of fun. We had a finalist that wasn't Paul. I mean, it's great. And then we go into 21, and I'll never forget, I watched the episode, and it was the episode where Ovi went upstairs and they wouldn't let him in the room. And I just stopped watching the season right there because it was a disgusting, ugly group of 8 or 9 hateful 8 motherfuckers who just were flat out bullying people and got rewarded for their merit the entire season. And it frustrated me to no end. And eventually, I think it was 2 years later, I rewatched the season, and I found it because I just wanted to be caught up to date, and because I got really into Big Brother 23. So I wanted to like see like, okay, maybe it got better after I was done, and it didn't. And there were some people in the cast I enjoyed. I enjoyed Kemi a lot. I loved Ovi. I was one of the people who wanted David to come back for a second chance. That happened, and I think Isaiah, I'm really looking forward to that podcast for Misfires, because I remember preseason 2. Sorry, I'm a little all over, but I remember preseason, a lot of people were high on Jack because he was like the Aquaman lookalike, and like he's just this big teddy bear, and then he's just an asshat. So
Yeah.
I don't like this season, if you can't tell.
Well, like just to even look back, this was the same year Survivor Island of the Idols came out. So it's like what a dark year for
We
reality
had a tough
TV.
year that year.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, what a dark year for Big Brother. My God. But all right. So I guess we could start with the production side, guys. So obviously blunders here, twist wise. I just want to pull up real quick some of the things that we experienced. We had the Whacktivity competition. We had a Hit the Road competition, the Camp Director. Ugh. We had Camp Comeback. We also had America's Prankster, America's Field Trip, Prank Week. Kind of a bright spot, but how do we feel overall about the twist this season? I can start off by saying basically, oh, I think there's like a little type of feedback.
Sorry, that's me. Sorry.
Oh no, you're okay. So obviously the big jarring like issue right here is Camp Comeback, right? I feel like watching it back a little bit, I think Camp Comeback is actually a really good idea. It was just done with the wrong people, because I actually was really excited for Camp Comeback at first. I'm like, oh, you eliminate someone, they stay in the game, they can still impact the game. Like, I wonder if people talk game with them. I wonder if someone gets blindsided, that they completely blow someone's games up. I don't think this is the right cast to do with it, unfortunately. Obviously, they didn't know that, but like this cast, honestly, first of all, everyone was playing fake nice with a lot of the people who got out, or completely just ignored them, to the point where it's like, all right, what's the point of me being here if I'm not talking to anybody? Obviously, they usually use minorities or people who are older to take them out, looking at Kemi, Ovi, David, and Cliff. And then ultimately, we were kind of hoping that anyone but Cliff would get back in the house, and Cliff got back in the house. So obviously a huge loss here. I don't think it's their fault, but they cast these people, so technically it's their fault. But how do we feel about Camp Comeback, guys?
I agree with you, Isaiah. I think the twist itself is interesting. I would like to see it played out maybe with a different cast, maybe with a different theme. Like maybe we can just leave Camp Comeback like in the dust and call it something else. But the thought of the players coming back. You can hear me?
Yeah,
I
you're
c-
good now. You're froze for
Oh,
a
okay.
second.
The thought of the players coming back into the house after being eliminated and being able to influence the game, I think is really interesting. I don't like a night one eviction. I think David being like the night one evictee was not really a great situation. And obviously, you know, we had high hopes for David, and then he was not the most strategic player. Let's just say that. And saw some of the bullying that took place later down the line with Kemi and Ovi being part of Camp Comeback. Cliff coming back the day that he was evicted, it like wasn't even like he was part of Camp Comeback. There's a lot of tweaks they could do, but in general, I think it would be a really interesting twist if they did it even maybe later on in the game instead of right at the beginning. I think there are some tweaks that they could make that could make this work, I think. But it would have to be with a different cast for sure, obviously.
For
So
sure. I mean, oh, go ahead, Julia.
I was just saying, I know that Survivor has done jury buybacks. Like Rick Devens and Tyson had come back in Edge of Extinction and Winners at War. But has Big Brother ever done like contestants returning later on?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, completely.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you know, even looking at this, it's like 19 and 21. I feel like are big reasons why they try not to do them as much anymore. Because 19, you got Victor coming back both times for the
Oh, I
comeback.
never saw 19.
Yeah.
18, I think that was right.
Or 18. Sorry, 18. And then
I was gonna.
this season. Oh, go ahead, Jake. No, you got.
I really liked the way they did season 19's comeback,
Mhm.
like a mini tournament.
Yes.
I think there's a way that Camp Comeback, which I agree should be reworked, and we forget Camp Comeback ever happened, but we like take the soul of it and rework it and like kind of combine it with that little tournament. I think it could be something really interesting. And it's one of the things I'll commend production on for having a bold idea. They screwed up a lot this season of pre-existing relationships. And but I'll say Camp Comeback was really interesting. And I remember during the rewatch, I was pretty unspoiled. I was shocked when Cliff came back of all people. I mean, my money's not on Cliff. I'll say that much.
Who do you think of the three people, Kemi, Ovi, and David, would have like gotten the furthest or shook up the game? Because I think when Cliff won, and now we're just skipping to week 5, but whatever. I think
You're
when
fine.
Cliff won HOH, when he won Camp Comeback, like it was frustrating because it was cool, but it was also frustrating because he did what the majority alliance wanted, but then that got him a lot further. And I think
Mhm.
the reason why the pre-jury is so frustrating is that it really wasn't fluid at all. It was just like majority alliance, and then all the bottom feeders just trying to do whatever the majority alliance wants so they can be the 9th or 10th. But Cliff got really far, you know, and I think people would argue that Cliff made the right move to put Bella on the block and like Christy save her power rather than like I don't know, putting Christy up or something. So I'm curious. I feel like I want to say maybe Ovi could have done the most damage. Like I feel like Kemi checked out, rightfully so, because I mean people were being really mean to her. There were really not that many allies for her, and then I don't think David had any social capital to get anything done, as we've seen.
Yeah.
But I feel like Ovi could have done the most damage, but again, I feel like Ovi could have also been very persuaded by the bros. So I'm curious as to like, if not Cliff, who you guys would have wanted to see come back.
You know, it's tough because I mean, if you look at the options, you got Kemi, as you said, it's kind of just doing her own thing. She's checked out at that point. But I mean, personally, my pick is Kemi just because I like Kemi a lot.
Yeah.
Game wise, I think Ovi, he would have survived a little bit because he was still trying to work with the guys. But with that being said, he also still had like a sub thing going on with Cliff and Nicole. It was interesting to see a player who was eliminated still making alliances, but he did that. So I'll give that to him. And then outside of Ovi, David, he was also kind of like kissing butt a little bit. I mean, to be
Even
fair, I
after
think
the
it was
season.
yeah, after the season, well, that's debatable, questionable moves and stuff. But in the house, it was actually pretty smart for him. I mean, I don't agree with him hopping on Kemi and stuff for strategy, but I feel like out of everyone, I think the house preferred to see David come back in because he would have caused the less damage, and I think he would have survived a couple weeks. It would have been interesting. my vote's always going to be Kemi because I love Kemi to death. But I think David would have been interesting if he had any intentions on doing anything different. Now, obviously, we see what he's capable of, so I'm not sure if we were just snowed in the moment or something. But I mean, he looked like a completely different player at the time.
I do remember all of Twitter saying that, oh my God, David's a genius. He's figured out all the alliances. And I think everyone wanted David to go back because they thought he was the most observant or whatever. So, yeah.
I think everyone was just holding out hope for like some golden candle in the wind, and they were projecting David to be the savior of the season.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he was definitely the most observant for sure around the alliances, but I think he would have tried to work with them instead of disrupt them, which I don't think would have been great for his game. I think Ovi would have been interesting because he had a relationship with Nicole if they could have done something, but in that case, Cliff would have been gone. And so I don't really know. I think it probably worked out the way it was supposed to, but I'll give my vote to Kemi too because she's great.
I'm also going to throw a vote on Kemi as well because I found her to be exceedingly entertaining. I'll never forget though why you so obsessed with me. She was great and she was given too much shit.
So obviously the other awkward little twist that they did here was the Whacktivity competition. This is around the time that they were doing stuff like Den of Temptation, BB App Store, and now we have the Whacktivity, where they gave 3 powers away. We have the Nightmare power, which is basically allowing anyone with this power to wake everybody up in the middle of the night and make the HOH do nominations. Never got used, I don't think.
I don't think it did either.
That would have been a cool power.
Yeah, I actually kind of forgot about that. Would have been really interesting. Do you know who the HOH was when that power was won?
I do not remember. I'm not sure if anyone could find that for me, but I do not remember that one. I do remember Chaos power. This was basically if veto selections were made and you don't like the noms, you can basically reset that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was this Chrissy who had this one, or was it Cliff? It was one or the other. I think it was Chrissy.
I think it was Christy. That was Chaos competition was Jack.
Okay, so she was Panic power. Okay.
Ovi won the week 1 Nightmare competition, so that didn't get used, I think, because he was voted out.
Eliminated.
Yeah, and then week 3 was Christy, which was
the Panic. Yes, where kind of OP. You give you get to anonymously grant that week's POV winner a Diamond Power veto. I don't know why Big Brother's so obsessed with Diamond Power vetoes, but they tried it here and luckily it was not used. But my God, like imagine that if that happened. So twist, I don't think Big Brother really knew what they were trying to do here, all in all, but I mean they tried. The credit I'll give them is Prank Week. Prank Week was pretty funny on feeds because like I was so burnt out with this cast. So just to see them throwing pies at each other's faces and stuff, I thought that was
and
a little
the clowns,
silly.
right? They had the clowns popping up. Yeah, that was pretty. That was like a lighter moment later on in the season.
Yes.
It feels like around this time, Big Brother was giving out a lot of powers that were either not getting used or just like flopping when they did get used. So I'm kind of glad to see that we've dialed down a bit on the powers because they don't really ever tend to work out the way we want them to.
I think the Nightmare power is kind of cool though. See, that they should bring that back. That's a twist that was not used. They should bring back. That would be funny. But there we go. So let's talk about the cast a little bit. Obviously, so we kind of talked about the Camp Comeback people a little bit. So we can start chatting a little bit about more of the pre-jurors before we get to the jury members. We got Sam Smith and Bella. Some interesting people here. I've gone on the record. I'm not a fan of Sam Smith.
Yeah, you went like semi-viral with that, huh?
Yeah,
with that opinion.
Wait, what happened?
Yeah,
can you share?
I want to know about this.
I'll send you guys a tweet afterwards, but it was a hate tweet on Sam Smith. I don't like him, but
the world needs more hate tweets against Sam Smith. Let's face it.
His Big Brother 21 performance, the fact that he shouted in DRs all the time,
just his general life opinions are terrible. In addition to his Big Brother play, and
I mean Sam Smith. I don't know. I did not get the hype. I'm not going to lie. I think that the Send It, man, I think Sam actually had an opportunity since he was good at competitions to like flip the house a little bit if he wanted to, but he, on top of a couple other people that we'll get into, I felt like were just really misted in the season and just were willing to be on the outskirts of the Grateful Alliance, never really wanting to like make any power moves or anything. And it was kind of, it's hard to watch. I was not a fan, unfortunately, but I mean, what are you going to do? But the more interesting one to talk about is Bella, because I felt like Bella at first was a really interesting person to have in the season. You know, started the All Girls Alliance at the beginning with Kemi and I believe it was Christy. What else?
Jessica.
Oh, thank you, Kemi and
Mhm.
Jessica. Eventually she was brought into the Grateful Alliance. All the guys liked her. That was fine. She had a showmates with Nick. Peculiar, but that was fine. It wasn't
choice.
until Grateful was getting ready to throw her under the bus. And she was aware of this, but her and Nick still stayed loyal. They blew up on Kemi, specifically Bella. They had a little squabble. Bella, fall from grace, right?
Yeah, I was excited about Bella. I thought she was going to be like a rootable villain, but she ended up just being a villain. Like she made the All Girls Alliance, and then she like outed the All Girls Alliance after she made it. Just like there were a lot of things that just didn't make any sense in her gameplay, and I think her placement in the season kind of just goes to show how her gameplay was. But yeah, she was like something that we don't always see, in a cast member. So I was hoping that she would do a little better at the beginning, but then once we kind of saw her true colors, she was not my favorite. Let's just say that.
I think oh, sorry. When Isaiah, when you're going to speak, you paused and I thought my video was frozen.
Oh, no, you're fine. That was me.
I think, I don't want to use archetypes, but I feel like they cast Bella because they were hoping she would be a June type. I think they, probably in terms of personality, people who are sarcastic and know what they want. I think they were hoping as someone as self-interested as June. And obviously no one really liked June, but she still won because they liked her over Allison. And I think, yeah, I don't know. I think disappointment of Bella was she was so mean to Kemi. She was so mean to Nicole. The reason why the Grateful 8 or Undeniable 9 Undeniable formed was because Bella and Nick were playing both sides. Nicole gave the six people and 6 shooters before it's formed information, and then Bella and Nick denied it, and that's why the bullying happened, right?
Yes.
And I feel this is where it's the first 2 weeks of Big Brother 24 really reminded me of Big Brother 21 because Nicole and Taylor were in similar positions. They both handled it with grace. Similarly, with Nicole giving information to the other alliance members, with Taylor giving Monty the information, it just got blown up way out of proportion. But yeah, I think when Bella showed her true colors, it was really disappointing personally for me. But actually, without Bella, we wouldn't have gotten Derek X because Derek X found out about Big Brother because Bella shared a story from a casting producer, and they went to the same school. And also, Bella and Kemi knew each other too because they went to the same school or something.
Did they know each other? I know.
That's not in my notes.
I think they.
I know Kat and Holly knew each other, and obviously Tommy and Christy, but I didn't know about Bella.
And then Jackson followed Holly on this.
Yeah, they had mutual friends or something. His roommate was friends with Holly or something. There was a lot of connections. It sounds like on that season,
which is something I want to talk about later because it's so stupid. But about the last two pre-jurors, Sam is a wannabe Johnny Mac. I love Johnny Mac. Sam tried way too hard to be loud in the DR with the catchphrases. He was good at the vetoes. Good for you. You're not good at anything else. Stay off my TV. Bella, similarly, I wanted to like Bella so bad. I wanted a no BS, strong person to just dominate, and I, like most of Twitter, thought it was going to be Bella, and no. And I remember when she got into Kemi's face and was screaming and was like, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. I'm like, I hate you so strongly. And I'm sure she's fine in real life. I'm sure that house is a pressure cooker and it exemplifies all the worst in you. But my opinion of Bella is not positive, nor most of this cast. I feel like a broken record. I'm sorry.
Says, dang, tell us how you really feel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But it it's tough. It's like I do want to talk about what was going on with production this season, because with casting specifically, I don't really know how they got so many people that were familiar with each other and knew each other. It's like, what I've never seen this before. Like, I don't know if this was obviously a season of recruits. I don't know if they just grabbed a bunch of people from the same area that looked good. I remember Holly said that she was auditioning for Love Island. I believe Catherine possibly stopped someone from getting casted.
Yes, Jenna Johnson, I think her name is Jenna Johnson or something. Like, she found out she was on the show, and that's why Christy got on the show, because she leaked that this girl, I guess, that she didn't like, was going to be on the cast.
Like, what a crap show.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say something on top of that really quickly?
Yeah.
Because I was looking this up as soon as Isaiah, you told me that I was coming on. Let's play a little game. How long do you think it took BB Twitter to find out that Tommy and Christy knew each other? In minutes.
A couple hours. Yeah. It's not hard.
16 minutes.
That's crazy.
Wow.
16 minutes to find that out. And production, which is a team of people getting paid way more than my measly teacher salary, could not figure that out. Also, you have Holly and Kat who know each other too, and what is going on with this show?
Yeah, this was the last time it was under Robert and Cass as well. Now, granted, if last season didn't show you, I don't think Robin Cass is the end all be all problem here.
No, I think we owe Robin Cass a little bit of an apology just because she was our scapegoat for so long. But I really think it's production in general and Grodner. Yeah, because Robin Cass is still casting Big Brother Canada, and we've had great Big Brother Canada seasons over the last couple of years. And she also cast The Mole, and The Mole cast was really great too. So I think she's redeemed her, or at least shown that she's not the issue. And it obviously is the executive heads at CBS or whoever has the final say. And this was like the shining moment of the peak of it just being completely terrible, how this cast turned out.
Yeah. So there you go with the pre-jury. So we can start talking about some of the people with a lot more screen time here. The jury members, before we get to the finalists, right? So obviously, start with Jason Momoa, Aquaman, Jack. I remember
justice for Jason Momoa.
Don't ever disrespect him like that again.
I forget. I remember.
I don't know if he deserves this.
It was Jack and Jackson. There were so many nicknames for them. Some I can't repeat here, but I think Jackass was a funny one. Oh yeah. But,
do you remember when Julie Chen was like, Jackson, also known as Mickey? Like, we didn't know who they were, and then she tried to explain it to us.
Yeah. Jack was really in power here for a majority of the season. Unwarranted, but the Grateful Alliance. I give a lot of credit to him for a lot of that going on. Obviously, he had his showmance with Annalise. He had somewhat of a close connection with Christy as well.
He was really obsessed with her. Yeah.
Yes. And he got his HOHs, but his behavior in the season was not good at all, especially with Kemi. I did not, and David, to be honest.
Ovi, the three of them.
Yeah, it was bad. I just did not like a lot of the things that Jack was giving to the season. Now, luckily, we had Jessica here, Milagros, who won the HOH and put Jack and Jackson up on the block.
And she won the veto, right?
Yeah, we do not see that a lot.
She clenched.
Yeah, that was crazy. But unfortunately, the other one ended up winning the season. But Jack, a lot of behavior that was really horrible. But I mean, how do we feel about his performance here in this season? Or should we skip him and move on?
I mean, he just came in, it feels like, with brute force, and was just a total asshole to everybody that wasn't in his alliance, and even some of the people that weren't in his alliance. It felt like, Christy was chaotic in her own right, but it felt like she often felt like she was just about to turn on Jack. We saw him and Mickey turn against each other, which was probably like that between that day and then Jessica's HOH that week. I think I want to say saved the season because we know how the season ended up. But if that week didn't happen, then we would have had a Jack and Jackson steamroll to the end. Like if they didn't end up splintering and then Justin win that HOH, I think we would have really been in a lot of trouble with this season. So it did at least kind of give us something to look forward to. But yeah, his treatment of Kemi was just absolutely disgusting. Racist, horrible. He's horrible. Even after the season, there's been tweets of like and screenshots of text messages that he's sent that were racist and that Kat Dunn leaked. I mean, has not learned from his time in the Big Brother house. Julie Chen showed him, which I think is probably the last time that this has happened, showed him clips of his racist behavior and asked him to answer for it. And he basically just like denied it. He said something racist to Bella as well, about rice cooking. I mean, like he was horrible. He was horrible. So I don't have one redeeming thing to say about this guy. He was probably the worst person on the entire cast, followed closely by Jackson Mickey.
Yeah. Not the best.
Has everyone here seen The Mole?
Not the new season.
Yes,
I'm.
Yeah, I've seen the new season.
Okay. Well, I'll just make a quick comment, but there's, I actually think I was watching The Mole, the new season, and I realized that Will reminds me a lot of Jack. And I don't know if you've heard like the postseason stuff, but I feel like the cast felt similarly about. I don't know. I don't think Will had any of the. I think in terms of aggressive, dominant energy, and like long flowing hair. But that was just a comment.
Yeah, I can see that comparison actually.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jake. You want to say something?
Oh, and I guess the reason why that's important is that like, actually, it's more of a Kamol comment, but like, never mind. Okay.
You're fine, Julia.
Jake, go ahead.
No, I was trying to think. I'm trying to think of something positive to say because I've been saying so much negative. So I'm gonna say Jack has nice hair, and everything else about him sucks.
Yeah.
Well, okay. One positive thing I could say about Jack is that I feel like the cast of Big Brother 21 was very passive, and I feel like Jack 50% of the time was Christy's lapdog, but like in the beginning, he showed a lot of strains of being like proactive in his gameplay. And the reason why I say this is that like I think people like Nicole or Cliff, honestly, I feel like were a lot more passive than the audience wanted. And so that's kind of, I don't know, maybe for 2 weeks he was active. That's the positive thing I'll say.
You know someone's bad when they make you root for Jackson Mickey. Like if they in the Splinter, I was like, okay, I guess I have to root for Jackson because I hated Jack so much that he was on the opposing side. So it's bad when Jackson is the one that you have to root for out of the two.
Yeah, I'm not going to forget him basically plotting Jackson and Holly's demise, and then that just happened to be the week that Sam left that the whole house blew up and completely saved Jackson's game at that point. But like, I just wish they followed through and took Jackson out, and then Jessica wins next week and takes Jack out. What a different season we would have had,
Yeah.
It is what it is. But so
does that mean we get a Sam win though?
No, I'm not. No way. But also, I just wanted to comment because we kind of glossed over Kemi a little bit. Love Kemi, as we said earlier. But she has gone on the record saying, "Hey, I'm done with Big Brother.
Mm-hmm.
This is in my past. I don't want to be tagged in any of this stuff. So I'm gonna leave it alone." But lovely. I met her in person. She's great. Same with Ovi, Dave, and a couple other people in this season. They're all great people. The people I mentioned, but they're great people, but I'm not gonna make her relive her trauma and all that. So
agreed. I want to say that too. Like I've gotten a chance to meet Kemi at a few events and also met Ovi in person, and they're both really wonderful, very nice people. And it seems like they're pretty good friends with each other as well. So I'm glad that they can share their experience together. But shout out to them. Like they had some really terrible treatment. David did as well, but it seemed we could talk about David at another time.
Yeah, I met David before. He's a nice person in person, but
sure.
I will also say I love that Kemi has people that she can hang out with now. Shout out to
Yeah.
Cookout, shout out Taylor, shout out anyone who she can relate to now. But all right, moving on. So I guess we can do this next batch, these next four, really in a bunch, because they were kind of all not really in the power structure at all, but they were relevant in one way or another. You know what? No, I'm going to do next three. Jessica, she gets her own little segment, but Catherine, Annalise, and Nick. So Annalise and Nick were in Grateful. Kat was not, but she was one of the people like Sam who kind of wanted to stay on the
Mhm.
outskirts. Annalise, I mean, she's on the challenge now. I'm not familiar with it. I don't know how well how
Mess,
Kate-
mess,
I
mess.
don't know.
An absolute mess.
Yeah, her personality just seemed to be like, she was there and she was in the showmans. I remember Rob trolling her in the exit questions.
That was pretty great.
Yeah, but you got Kat and you got Nick. Ugh, I know Kat's kind of like redeemed now within like media, right? I think she has a Conspiring Bitches podcast. She's out there now. I don't know if she's publicly spoken about some of the stuff that she was doing. The one that kind of and like I said, I'm not gonna really go over too much Kemi content, but like the whole Kemi with the swimming suit
Yeah.
issue, I did not like that too much. Obviously because she thought that there was something going on down there, and then she wore her bathing suit and said, "Oh, I wonder if Kemi's gonna catch this." Like, don't do that. That's not cool, Kat.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything with that, but also Nick. I mean, we could talk about both of them because Nick, who had a showmance with Bella, and then went to jury, and then had a showmance with Kat, it basically cheated on Bella on national TV and asked production not to put this in the show. Like this is the cast that we're talking about, guys. Like this is a mess. But what's our overall thoughts about these three? Your face expressions are so funny.
I'm trying to decide on who I want to talk about first. I think
Kat
Kat has, I guess, sort of redeemed herself. I don't know if I would go that far, but I know she seems to have learned from a lot of the mistakes that she made, and she's admitted that she watched back a lot of the really problematic behavior, and hopefully she has personally apologized to Kemi and some of the others who she treated poorly. I don't know if she has or not, but it does seem like she has done some work, maybe not all of the work that needs to be done, but she's done some work to understand why what she did was not okay. So I can give her that's really what we want at the end of the day, right? We want these ignorant people to learn and grow from their mistakes. It seems like she's done a bit of growing, but I won't go so far to say that she's like completely redeemed. I don't really know, but she didn't really add a ton of gameplay in the season, but like to hook up with Jackson at the beginning, the showmances on this season were so wild, like pre-feeds to hook up with Jackson, and then Jackson to get together with Holly, who is her real life quote unquote friend or person that she knew, and then to go into the jury house and hook up with Nick. There was also rumblings about her being in a showmance with David while David was still in Camp Comeback. Like they were flirting. This was a mess. This was just a mess. But like, I don't know, shout out to Cliff's Angels, I guess. Like I don't really know.
Yeah.
I
Poor Jake.
Kat is whatever. I mean, Kat's, like Katie said, it seems that Kat has processed that she did some stupid stuff, and now she's on to creating fake leaks for Big Brother, which is good. Good for you. Keep yourself happy. I'm personally not a fan, but I know she has a ton of fans, so good for her. I hope she's happy, and I hope she's learned and changed. As for the other two, I forgot they were on this season, which honestly might be the best quality to have for this season. It felt like all of them were trying to play Love Island instead of Big Brother. And oh wait, Nick had the Taco Tuesday thing with Christy, right?
Yeah.
Nick had some moments, not like pro moments, but he had some moments for sure.
They're there.
I am I'll admit, I'm a big Nick hater. Because we do not get Philly people on Big Brother, and I don't know if he's the first, but he's the first I've experienced on the show. And then obviously we got DF the season after. But we got Nick, and he was like, "I'm from Philly." I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'm a root for you. I'm a
Child
I'm a athlete."
psychologist.
Yeah, and first of all, the tweets got leaked out. A lot of the crazy stuff he was saying, a lot of slurs being used. It was just bad. Then you went in the house. I did not like his personality. I did not like the showman, the treatment, all that. It was too much. And then when he went into jury and the whole cat thing, that was crazy. But that wasn't even the worst part. He went on a celebrity boxing match and he got
Oh,
beat
that's
up really
right.
bad.
I
And he
forgot.
opened there saying, "I'm representing Philly." And I tweeted in all caps, "We do not claim you." And I was like, I don't like Nick Macaroon or whatever his last name is. Yeah, I was not a fan. And then me and Annalise was just there. I mean, people seem to not mind her. She's on the challenge by all means. But wow.
Really quickly about the Philly thing, there have been, aside from Nick and Derek F., there is the very first person ever banished from Big Brother US, William Collins, hometown Philadelphia, and Kristen from Big Brother 12, the one who got in a showmance with Hayden. So those are your options. Pick your champion, Isaiah.
I got Delaware people. I don't need to worry about that anymore. I'm cool. But
Yeah, but do you want to claim that Delaware person?
I'll claim Carla. I claim Carla.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Love
I didn't know Carla was from Delaware. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
she is down the street. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. But Julie, how do you feel?
Yeah, I'm just having so much fun reacting to all of your guys' reactions. So people turn on the YouTube video instead of the podcast version. My thoughts on all of them. I do remember watching Big Brother 21 and thinking, even though Kat did a lot of problematic things, and I think in the season she was really flawed. I do remember thinking the only two likable people were actually Nicole and Kat, and so I was thinking to myself like, oh, when it comes to America's favorite player, I'm gonna vote for two of them, and then everyone on Reddit was like, it's so obvious that Kat's going for America's favorite player, like, and that turned people off. But I do think she added a lot of levity and silliness, and of the alliance, I think she was the most likable. I think Christy was someone. I mean, obviously we're saving a whole portion about Christy, but Christy, to me, I need to not jump to Christy, but I think besides Christy and maybe Tommy, like, she was the most likable. So, but I will say, I do not remember a single strategic move that she made. Like, I remember Kat, like, postseason, I remember Kat because of all the showman's drama, conspiring bitches, maybe playing some pranks. I do not know a single move that she made. And so in terms of like strategicness and like how she is as a player, like, probably not up there in terms of personality. She was definitely more on the likable side. For Annalise, furniture. Sorry. I don't know if she's furniture in the challenge.
She's not, but she should have probably taken that strategy.
Oh, interesting. I want to hear more about that. And then Nick, the Taco Tuesday. In my head, I always think of Annalise and Nick as like good pawns in Christie's strategy, because she was put on the block against them, and they thought she was going to go home, but she was able to pull some big moves, and therefore the pawn. I think they were both. I don't know if Nick was a pawn, but Annalise was definitely a pawn who went home, and so that's how I think of them.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I mean, Nick was a disappointment as well. I remember him being one of my favorites because I thought he like had like a little bit of charm in the preseason, and then DRs, it was like not there, like completely dead-eyed, So yeah, I think Nick had a lot of potential. Like, I think he was in a decent position. I think both him and Bella were like doing the right thing and playing the middle, but then they just like completely flopped on how to play the middle successfully. So
Nick was also really horrible to Nicole. I don't know if you guys remember the blow up, but Nicole, and I'm, after All Stars especially, not really a Nicole fan either, but she was suffering from a lot of anxiety in the house, and he really weaponized that against her, and really was the reason why that whole room bullied Nicole and wouldn't let her in the room and questioned her anxiety to her face. And so did Bella. Like, they were horrible to her. So I will say kudos to Nicole for being able to come out of that situation with grace, and be able to make it so far. Obviously, she was one of the few sort of rootable people that we had at the time. Looking back, it's kind of like, but yeah, Nick, especially as a child psychologist, to weaponize someone's mental health against them, it's like not a good look, my dude. Not a good look.
It's not good at all. Poor Jake is a teacher. So we spend way more time than we should have with these three. So
yeah,
we could talk about Jessica for a little bit, because I mean, her, she had a game. It wasn't anything crazy, but the one week that she got her HOH and completely got revenge after they kept putting her on the block. I'm a Jessica fan. I'm happy for Jessica. She definitely did something that, we just watched what's the alliance in the last season that just happened? The Leftovers.
The Leftovers.
Yeah. We just saw the Leftovers do this, get revenge on the people who were like throwing them up and being weird. Jessica is one of the first people, not even first, one of the few people to get their comeuppance and their revenge on these people and completely throw them out the door. So shout out to Jessica. I don't know if anyone has much to say, but I she's very involved still with podcasting too. I met her as well. She's cool. Love Jessica in the season. Unfortunately, argumentally maybe Nicole, but unfortunately, probably like one of the last few people I have a lot of nice things to say with this cast. So,
plus her iconic fall from the wall. I mean, that's like a moment that lives in Big Brother history. Like, we can't just gloss over that scream. It's amazing. So shout out to her for that. But like, great for her to win that HOH and that veto. Everybody really was underestimating her. I love seeing someone with a body type that we don't always see on Big Brother. Like, I admire her for that. And just being even a little older than the rest of the cast. Not that she's old, but she was a little older than the rest of the cast. I always root for people like that are just a little bit different than what we normally see. Sometimes she was a little bit of a feeds killer sometimes. I will say that. But shout out to her. I think I love that she's still part of the community. And I think, yeah, good for her.
I think out of everyone on the cast, she might be one of the people I respect the most, because in a situation where you are clearly at the bottom, you can either A, try to gain social capital with your HOH, or B, realize no matter what you do, you're still going to be on the bottom. So you swing for those fences and do whatever you can. And she swung for the fences. And, there's a lot of people who get nervous and they don't do that. And so much respect and kudos to Jessica for nominating the Blunder twins, Jack and Jackson. That's all interesting, I have to say.
Yeah, I think Jessica is iconic. Like, her HOH week is probably one of the most memorable HOH weeks of the season. I also still remember the veto competition where she's like swirling around and she just absolutely clinches it. And that's something I remembered from not reviewing. Another comparison I want to make, it's not the best comparison because I think Jessica is a much better person than this person, but I think the gameplay of Jessica is very similar to Terrence.
I can see that.
Not in the sense of like Terrence just says yes to like whatever you say and like completely flip-flops, and also so many other things that happen post-season, but in the sense of like was always on the outs, really not passive, really pretty passive, didn't know what to do. But then when it came to their HOH week, made a lot of big moves and was really active and try to further their game. But then after the HOH week, it kind of died down again. Yeah. But I feel like, I think all kudos to Jessica for that 1 week. But I think there are times where, and again, like the Big Brother house is very overstimulating. But I think there are times where, just like Katie said, she was a feast coach because she would like shut down conversation. She wasn't always interested in hearing the strategy. And yeah.
Well, I'm going to do real quick. I'm glad someone brought up the iconic fall. I did not think of that. I wanted to get a sound bite, but why would you sound it when I could just show it real quick?
Please give it to us.
If it comes up. Oh,
got it,
I don't
Jess.
want to hurt myself.
You gotta pee?
It's all right.
No,
You
I
gotta
gotta
pee.
go. I don't even want to fall.
Turn to the side.
You're okay. Just
Good.
land right on that booty, girl. Just put your legs out
Turn
and
to the
fall on
side.
your booty.
Jess, you're amazing. You got
You
it.
got it. You got it. Turn to the side.
Shut up, Tommy.
Like you're laying in bed.
Yep. Like you're jumping onto your bed on your side.
Let go. Turn to the side. Shut your eyes. Just turn to the side.
You're okay.
Incredible. The build up too is perfect. It's so good.
What's cool is kind of everyone is like, this is so stupid, but let's help her. Like, it was the
Yeah.
one moment all
Amazing.
season the entire cast came together for a cause.
I'm not going to
That was
remember
great.
this, so I'm going to just say it now. I also hate that Jackson thought it was like, oh, I need to use the bathroom. I'm going to pee on myself while I'm up here. And everyone was, he was like, oh, yeah, I did it. And everyone was so hype. I'm like, ew. You just pissed
I
your
think that was the
pants.
Vine comp that he peed his pants. I don't know if he
Isn't
did it
this
again on the wall comp, but there was that one where they were like hanging from the vines. I think Holly might have won that one. I don't remember, but he definitely peed himself during that competition for sure.
It's
He might have done
so
it again on the
gross.
wall, but
Like,
that's
they, like-
disgusting.
Ugh, I can't. Okay, so we can get into Christy. You know, if it wasn't for a lot of the things that happened during the Grateful era, I'm not gonna lie, I would love to see Christy again. I think that she is honestly one of the more memorable villains within recent Big Brother, within the last era that just happened. Obviously, cutting off from All Stars 2. That's the new era started with Big Brother 23. But you know, at the butt end of that era, I felt like Christy was a little memorable. She reminded me a little bit of, like, outside of the strategic portion, remind me a little bit about Vanessa. You know, I think that she was cracked. She loved to cry. You know, I think Christy was very villainous, but you know, first of all, she had a lot of help by her pre-connection with Tommy. You know, she definitely, I feel like her judgment was clouded a lot with greed, specifically not trying to play her power, and you know, always being on edge about people. And then, you know, the Taco Tuesday thing happened, and you know, she fall from grace, obviously, but you know, unfortunately, you know, Christy still just made a lot of comments that weren't good. You know, did not treat people fairly sometimes. You know, it didn't look good. So you know, I never expect to see Christy again. I would have loved, if it wasn't for these things, just like Amanda Zuckerman, to see Christy again. But you know, had to ruin all that. So you know, it is what it is there. But I mean, how do we feel about Christy here?
I would have loved a reality where Tommy went home on the double and not Christy, to see what would have happened at the end. I think that would have made a little bit of a difference, maybe. I mean, maybe it would have ended up exactly the same, but I would have been curious to see, because it seemed like Christy was always in these situations that were inescapable and she got herself out of them. Like the Taco Tuesday thing, like she turned that around into like making Nick look really bad when the goal was to make her look really bad. You know, there were so many times that she was supposed to go up on the block in one of Jackson's 85,000 different HOHs, and she talked herself down, even though they really didn't like each other. She was an interesting player. We also get the iconic shower scene of her and Tommy. Like, there were a lot of good memes this season, I will say, even though we don't like the cast. There were a lot of really good memes and funny moments. But yeah, if she was just a player and didn't have all of, you know, the baggage that everybody else has, I would be interested to see. She's probably one of the most strategic players of the season for sure.
Sure.
Okay, so strategy-wise, I really liked Christy. I thought her strategy was good. She definitely had help having the pregame connection, but I thought strategically she was good. But oh my god, she annoyed me so much with the crying.
Yeah.
You are such a fucking victim. Shut up. You are playing a game for $500,000. It's not that deep. Stop crying. You have an unfair advantage that most other people don't have. And don't worry, I'll get to how annoying your unfair advantage is later. But, oh my god. Like, what? You know how I said Sam was a wannabe Johnny Mac? I was thinking Christy's a Walmart version of Vanessa. Like,
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Vanessa, I love you. You are one of my favorites. Christy, you are not one of my favorites. Sorry, that
look,
was way too mean. Sorry,
silent
but
podcast for anything but silent. I ain't stopping you. Julia, did you have any?
I
Did you want to
mean,
say?
Katie and Jake pretty much covered it. I do think the Tommy versus Christy is a really interesting turning point, because I think a lot of people think that Nicole and Cliff made the wrong decision because Christy would never work with Jackson and Holly, so it would be like 3 versus 2 versus when they had Tommy's like his ass is still kind of in, or no, his head's kind of in Jackson's ass, and so it was kind of like 3 versus 2. But no, you guys pretty much covered it. I mean, I think the season definitely revolves around a lot of her gameplay, but anything else to say about Chris? She's very entertaining. I think she brought the entertainment, and yeah.
She was definitely one of the main characters of the season. And I do think at the end game, it would have been interesting because I think she had a better relationship with Nicole than Tommy did at the time and a better relationship with Cliff than Tommy did at the time. So it could have been a little more interesting. Like, I think they probably would have voted out Holly over Christy instead of voting Tommy out over Holly in that situation if things were a little different. So I think the end game would have been very different if Christy was able to stay at that double.
Okay.
can I say one more thing?
Go for it.
I would like to apologize for how intense I was there. Because honestly, I've never been in that house before. I would probably cry all the time too. But as a viewer, it was just very annoying. Christy, if you're watching, I'm sorry.
I'm sure she's not watching.
Yeah, you're good.
If you are, hey, Jake, sorry. All right, so the next one. We got the final 5. We can talk about the other guy who's on the challenge now. You know, if we want to talk about discount Vanessa, we got to talk about discount Frankie Grande. We got to talk about Tommy here. Tommy, honestly, in my opinion, was for a majority of the game set up very well. You know, like Christy pregame alliance, and I mean that's not their fault, but pregame connection. There you go. But you know, Tommy, I felt like strategically knew how to move, and he kind of reminded me of Frankie a lot with his gameplay. The issue with Tommy is that he actively didn't stop people from like self-destructing with that alliance. Like I felt like if he was more involved with a lot of the social like strategy within Grateful, that it wouldn't have blew up the way it did. But since he didn't really stop people from like going after Nick and Isabella, from going after Jackson and Holly, and you know, all these things, you know, unfortunately it went the way it did. You know, I don't know who he ultimately was planning on taking to the end. Does he beat Christy? I mean, I want to say, yeah. I'm not going to say that that's cap, but it's like I feel like he actively let a lot of his nights go away, and he was just stuck in the house with a bunch of people who were not really rocking with him like that. Now, to be fair, until Jackson pulled the crazy blindside of that season where he eavesdropped and then lied to Nicole and Cliff and completely flipped them, I do think that Tommy had a pretty good connection with Cliff and Nicole, and he possibly could have won competitions to beat both of them. But you know, that playing's way too risky, and you know, that was unfortunate for him. And obviously, you know, it's not good that you were a part of you know, like the bullying of like Nicole and locking Ovi out and stuff. That was not good stuff either. But you know, there's Tommy. I think that if you want to rank strategists, he's probably like if not the best, one of the better in this cast, if that means anything. But how do we feel about Tommy here?
So I love my contestant comparisons, and I think Tommy was in the same position, or could have been in the same position as Xavier was in the cookout. Like Tommy, his main thing was like, let's keep everyone together. We have the numbers. Like, why do you guys keep fighting? And that shows how, I guess, successful Xavier was in keeping together this alliance of, you know, people who didn't like each other. And so I think Tommy had the potential. I mean, I think I'm pretty sure, like in the jury phase, like Tommy was my winner pick. I was like, this guy's the only person who's, you know, kind of likable, has strategic chops, but he just let like his alliance members get away from each other. And I think that was his downfall because he didn't set himself up for the end game.
Yeah, I agree with you, Julia. I think he was so focused, even towards the end, once it was clear that Grateful was no longer a thing and that they broke up and it wasn't going to work out, that he just kept trying to get them to work together again and kept trying to. He had a really good relationship with Holly, which I think he just kept trying to get Holly to like, get Jackson, come back and we'll all work together with Christy. And like, obviously, Jackson and Christy did not have a good relationship. That was never going to work. And he just didn't really pivot from that until it was way too late. And I think he and Cliff never really were very close. And I think that's where a lot of like the trust erosion took place in that Blindside by Jackson, because Cliff didn't really have that relationship with Tommy to believe him. And unfortunately, Cliff was calling all the shots at that time, even though it was Nicole's HOH. So yeah, was it Nicole's HOH or was it Cliff's? I don't remember. Or Jackson, I guess it was Jackson's HOH, whatever, whoever was voting. But yeah, I think Tommy just waited a little bit too long, where that's why I think if Christy was in that position, she would have been a little bit better because she had better social relationships with Cliff and Nicole. Tommy, I think he was really good socially. I think he had really good friendships. Strategy-wise, I would definitely put him below Christy. I would put him below Tommy. I mean, below Jackson as well. But he was an interesting player. But I'll never forget the when they were all in the room not letting Nicole in. He was jumping up and down. Like, everybody thought he was like the nice guy, but he was like right in there too with that group thing, jumping up and down, being like, yeah, you did it. It was just like, that just sticks into my mind about Tommy. So he's definitely not my favorite either.
Yeah.
Tommy,
I mean, go ahead, Jack. Go ahead, Jake.
Don't call me Jack. Please. Tommy was my winner pick going into the season. I'm a big theater guy, and you get someone from Newsies on Broadway in the Big Brother house. I'm like, oh my god, my worlds are colliding. And then he's an asshole, and he's jumping up and down in the room, and it just was really upsetting. I think socially he played a pretty good game, and I think that was the actor side of him. He was adaptable. He was able to go into any group and kind of just fill the niche. But I also think Tommy was scared of being alone in the house. I think once he lost Christy, that was very apparent that he kind of couldn't handle being alone. Yes, it was a really good move on Jackson's part, the eavesdropping and lie, but I think he started to spiral when Christy got picked off. And I think if Christy wasn't there, I don't know how do you guys think Tommy would have done if Christy wasn't in the game?
I think he would have done better, personally.
Way better.
Yeah. I think he always played like, Christy was very emotional, and he always like kind of had to talk her down from her emotions a little bit. And I think if he didn't have her to worry about throughout the season, he probably could have made better relationships with other people. So I think she rubbed some people the wrong way too in the house. So I think if he didn't have that kind of just like attached to him at all times to worry about, he would have done a lot better.
I actually remember him doing a confessional saying that he felt like he was being held back because Chrissy was like just very sporadic with her gameplay, so what are you going to do if you feel like you're trying to protect two people instead of just yourself? It's just not going to be good. So that's why it's like having this connection, as much as it's beneficial, it has a lot of repercussions, especially if the other person's not on the same page as you, so totally. But yeah, there you go, there's Tommy. Oh, I thought you were about to say something.
Oh, I thought you were saying that Tommy was in our YouTube comments.
Oh, no.
So that's why I was like, oh, God. Okay.
And actually, I agree with Joseph here, saying Tommy was just too scared to do anything when it was obvious that Mickey was going to win because he really needed his mommy stuff. But there you go. All right. Final four. I think all four of them are very interesting conversation points because all four of them were very well intricated in the game, in the structure, and very important to the season in one way or another. Talk about Cliff first. I don't think we've had a Cliff before. I think he's like a better version of what Donnie was trying to be. And now, to be fair, I mean, Cliff got eliminated early, for questionable reasons, but he won his way back in. He actually won his HOH right after he came back in, and he won another HOH later on in the season. Made a great connection with Nicole. Now I want to get everyone's opinions on this because this is actually a really hot topic on the season. Some people feel like it was a horrible move for Cliff to not force Christy to use her power. Now, obviously, Christy ends up not using her power anyway, and ultimately, Cliff outlasts Christy. So it's like, what does everyone feel about this move? Because I know a lot of people feel like this is a horrible move, and there's a lot of people who feel like this is actually a pretty good move. How does everyone feel about that?
I think I'm trying to just remember the exact situation of when Christy had the diamond power veto. I do think Cliff probably should have forced her to use it, just because I think it would have maybe made her show her hand a little bit more. Like, I just feel like it would have put him in a better position and would have caused more distrust against Christy, even though there already was some, I think, at the time. But Cliff, to me, is like one of the most passive players and one of the most frustrating players this season, because he is one that just sticks with the guys and the Majority Alliance and his bros handshake with Jackson and just doing what Christy wants. It's like he didn't do anything really to further himself. And I think that's really why he lasted so long, because they didn't see him as a threat and he was really just doing other people's dirty work for them. So I think I would have preferred to have Cliff force Christy to use the power for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I was in the camp that I was like, this is a good move not to use it. I think the fact that he just came in and he was already hot, I think him and, to be honest, Ovi and David had the same idea, kissing ass, right? I think that was unfortunately the right move in my opinion, because ultimately it does buy him into the final four. And I mean, to be fair, if he does follow through with this plan, Holly goes home at 4, and then you have Tommy and Jackson going after each other, and Nicole and Cliff get to sit right in the middle, and at least one of those two are going to be in the final 3 at that point, or final 2. If we look at it, one of those two are going to be in the final 2 at that point. The issue with Cliff, in my opinion, is not the move, not forcing Chrissy to use it, but as you said, he, for some reason, instead of following through with taking out Holly, he gets so, like, I don't know, egotistical is the right word, but like he just really gets self-interested to the point where he kind of like, he's like, I should be taking Jackson closer. He's going to try to take me to the end. He's winning more competitions. Why wouldn't I like work with that? And he convinces Nicole out of her better judgment to keep Holly and Jackson intact and to take Tommy out. It's like I feel like that was such a misplay, because if you get Holly out, Jackson is forced to work with whoever is going to take him to the end, and Tommy is knowing hell is going to take Jackson to the end. So you have the big heads butting at each other's heads. Who knows? Jackson was HOH. Tommy can compete for HOH. If it's not you two, Tommy will win it, and everyone's going to be on the same page to take Jackson out unless he wins the veto. I feel like it was such a misplay, because at that point, either Cliff or Nicole wins. I don't know personally, because Tommy actually had a lot of friends in that jury. But regardless, it was going to be an uphill battle. But don't take the showmance to the final. I don't know. I did not like that whatsoever, and it was such a misplay. And I actually have one other issue with Cliff Hogg. But before I get into that, Julia, Jack, how did you feel about Cliff's game?
I think as I'm hearing the two of you talk, I'm like, what motivated Cliff? Because I think his gameplay makes sense if he cares about money. And I don't know if by Big Brother 21, like getting as far as possible meant more money.
Well, he was a fan.
I know he's a super fan. He still does live feed updates. Like, I know he was following Big Brother 24. But when you're a fan, don't you want to go big and go home and disturb the structure as much as possible? But instead he played for, like, let me be at the bottom of this alliance, and he played for longevity. But like, he didn't play. Like, I want to see super fans like flame out and do as much as possible. And yeah, I'm like really confused as to, like, Cliff didn't make. I think the things that Cliff was notable for is his Cliff Notes, which were then weaponized against him. The fact that he came back, the fact that he stayed long, but I don't remember any like big moves that he made. And I mean, I hope he, if people want him back and he comes back, he's able to play a little bit more boldly. But I'm just really confused as to like what exactly he wanted to do out of experience, right? I think similar to like Michael Bruner, like he didn't realize he was going to be so good at competitions, and he's like, fuck it, like I'm just going to win all these so I can set this record. Like, that's something that you do as a super fan. You don't care. I mean, maybe you do care about your threat management, but like he realized he was already making himself a big threat. And I think for Cliff, I'm just confused.
Yeah.
In my eyes, Cliff, I'm pretty indifferent towards Cliff. He was there. I don't remember much of what he did, but in my mind, he thought he got his head got too big. I think he thought that he could beat Jackson in any competition. And I think because Cliff was a super fan, he was addicted to the experience, and he just wanted the experience to last as long as possible. So that's potentially why we see a lot of people play a little more passive games where they don't do moves like that. And I want to say to Katie, I as when Isaiah asked that question, I was like, oh, it's a good thing that he didn't make her use the power. But your rationale very much changed my mind.
Thank you.
So you should go on Big Brother, and you can manipulate me.
I don't want to get my life ruined by Twitter. Otherwise, maybe. But no, I think you're right, Jake, about him wanting the experience to just last as long as possible, because he was planning like week by week. But I don't feel like he ever did anything to set himself up to win at the end. And this is why Cliff is so frustrating to me, because he controlled all of Nicole's moves at the end, and Nicole had the right idea. Like, Jackson and Holly had to get split up, and keeping Tommy there at the end would have given Nicole a better opportunity to win some of those end game competitions that are super physical that Cliff probably wouldn't have had a chance to win. You know what I mean? Like, he's not, even Nicole like passed out on the days comp. I think that she had to like climb the wall and put the days up. Like, those competitions were super physical in this season. And I just don't know why Cliff ever would have thought like, oh, this handshake agreement that I had with Jackson, he's going to take me over his girlfriend. Like, it just made no logical sense. And it's just so frustrating because it feels like it just set the season up to just be the worst outcome that we expected from the beginning. And I blame it all on Cliff.
She froze a little bit. No,
I'm not here anymore.
You're fine now. You're
okay.
good.
I just said I blame it all on
I
Cliff.
can hear.
Jackson's win.
Okay. Well, the last rant I have about Mr. Cliff Hogg, it's unfortunate because he was a super fan, still podcasts about the show. He was Cliff Notes. He was shouting out RHAP and stuff. Like, he was doing things I haven't seen. He was a real fan. A lot of people, specifically like the last season, go on the show and say that they're super fans and they're not. He was a real fan. I did not like. And, he had the problem that a lot of other people on his cast had, which was trying to appease the majority, people pleasing. And unfortunately, it's like part into like some of the bullying. And one of the most notable ones that I do remember that bothered me to this day was the fact that I remember he kept peeing on the toilet seat in the floor on purpose and then blamed it on David.
Yep.
And then a lot of people did not like David, and that was another situation that they used to talk crap about him. So I did not like that from Cliff Hogg, and that's still in my mind.
Meanwhile, David was like cleaning the whole house. Do you think he's really pissing on the floor? He's literally cleaning the house.
You're not going to remember this stuff unless you watch the live feeds. It was horrible. Yeah. It was horrible. I did not like that, and he did that a lot. And he talked like it was his strategy to keep peeing on the toilet seat to blame it on him. I'm like, why did you need to do that? This is why Taylor's win is so good, because you don't need to be doing all this weird stuff to it. Go ahead, Jake. I'm sorry.
Kristen, once again, I'd like to apologize. I think I found someone I dislike more than I dislike you. I would like. I had no idea about that. That's one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard.
Very disappointed. Mr. Hogg,
Cliff,
right there.
Has he addressed it?
I don't know. I'm very detached from the season in this cast, to be honest with you. So I only follow Kemi, Jessica, and Obi at this point. So
yeah,
I don't know. But moving on from Mr. Hogg, we got the final three. And one of the two people to get asked back for All-Stars in this cast, what a fall from grace, Nicole Anthony. At one point, I believed, obviously, that's been overthrown because Taylor Hale is now the winner. I thought she was going to be probably one of the most liked players ever to play this game. It's like the last time I saw someone this beloved was like Jordan when she won. And, I think Nicole was loved because she was like picked on so much. And then she just kind of like opened out of her shell towards the end of the season and just can't. She was a great underdog. She was the only one being nice to Kemi. And after watching her on All Stars, and I don't have anything bad to say about Nicole, actually. I don't think she's a bad person.
I do.
But well, we can get into that. It's like, and it's just that the problem with Nicole Anthony is that I just think in the house she was just very. Unfortunately she threw her game away for Cliff. That's fine. She was loved. That's fine. It's really the stuff that happened after the season because she continued to hang out with these people who are very nasty, even after the season. And saying a lot of crazy stuff. I'm looking at you, Sam Smith, about like Kemi still and all this stuff. She continued to hang out with these people even to this day. Still continues to hang out with a lot of those castmates. I did not like that. Obviously, she started her own podcast with the Eric guy, who he's kind of doing it by himself now. Nicole's not there anymore, but went on All Stars, made a complete ass out of herself. Unfortunately, targeting Janelle and hating Janelle, even though Janelle didn't do anything. We already did the All Stars recap, so I'm not going to talk about that. But I think Nicole had the world at her hand. Like, she was on top of the world. Like, that's why when All Stars 2 was announced, I'm like, she's a lock for the season. There's no way she's not a part of the season. And my God, what a fumble. Like, she dropped the ball. Luckily, we have Taylor now, who is now America's favorite. And I have a hard time seeing her not being like the Big Brother favorite for a long time. But, game-wise, how do we feel about Nicole? She never really had any power here. She was just very scrappy and finessed her way to the end, which was fun to watch personally. But I had a very fun time. I was rooting for her to win 100%. But how do we feel about Nicole?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think she was a really rootable underdog, and I think she played a decent game. Like, she had a good head on her shoulders. I think she was also a fan of the show before coming on, so she like knew how to navigate. She was friends with the people that we wanted to see succeed at the time. Like, she was always an ally to Kemi. She was an ally to Ovi, who we all at the time maybe liked, maybe didn't, I don't know. But someone that, all of the Camp Comeback people we were rooting for at some point because they were the antithesis of the power structure of what was going on in the house. So, I think obviously she came back to the show way too soon. And I can't think of a bigger fall from grace than Nicole Anthony. Like you said, Isaiah, she had the world at her fingertips and she just chose to go the complete wrong direction. And I think Kemi even came out during All Stars and said, she was very supportive of Jack and Jackson in the All Stars house on the feeds. I don't know if any, Isaiah, you probably watched some of the feeds at that time. I don't know if you guys did, but she just, Kaser was always asking a lot of questions about them and she was like very supportive, would not say a negative word about them. And Kemi even came out and said, you need to watch these clips. You need to see how they spoke about me, you, Ovi, these other people that you consider your friend. And she refused to do it because she didn't want to see her friends in that light, which like that to me is such a negative quality of a person. If you can't even you're not whatever. So she's not my favorite. I think unfortunately she really let Cliff run the show for her, but I don't think she really had any chance to not let Cliff do it. Like, I think he just took a stronghold over her at the end. And I don't think there's any way that she could have gotten her agency back from Cliff. And then when she was in the final three, the only opportunity she had to get to the end was to win those competitions and she just could not do it. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, it's interesting to think about the juxtaposition of Nicole Anthony between season 21 and season 22. It's just two complete different players.
Same 1 year.
Yeah, it's wild. Wild.
I don't know what it is about people named Nicole on their second season becoming a lot more disliked, but I'm with Katie. I'm not a big Nicole stan. But Nicole's game kind of reminds me of Charlie Brown, just getting the football, kept pulling away and falling on their face, and it's you just wanted to see her get up and just sucker punch the bad guys of the season because she was our only hope. We put all our eggs in that basket because the villains had taken over, but she had let someone play the game for her, which was a shame because she did have a good head on her shoulders. And then postseason, she wanted to be cool so bad. She wanted to be popular. She wanted to hang out with the cool kids. And that's why she unfortunately went down this path. And it is such a shame because I actually did. I enjoyed her the first season. And I remember when she was voted out, right? She's talking to Julie and she just starts crying because she looks out in the audience and she sees her family. And that made me start crying. And I'm just like, oh, now I have emotions. Finally. But she was so rootable. And I think it's a testament to how bad the cast of Big Brother 21 was as a whole, is if Nicole was the most rootable one.
Yeah, it's a mess. Julia, any closing thoughts about Nicole?
Just +1 to everything that Jake and Katie have been saying. I mean, I remember, Nicole was very genuine, and obviously we rooted for her the most just because the cast was so bad. But I was watching the Peridium cast review, Peridium BB21 review, and he was saying that like Nicole is like my favorite player ever. Like, only reason why I watched BB21 was to watch her win, and I was like, oh my god, like, I mean, obviously now because we have Taylor, like, of course Taylor is like favorite player to ever win, and also like we were rooting for her and we got our vindication. But I was like, I think it's really interesting to be reviewing BB21 even 3 years later, because I think it shows like just how far we've come in terms of quality of Big Brother seasons. Way better casting, but even then, like Big Brother 24 had like 2 likable players. But I do think it's just so fascinating that 3 years ago we were like, this is our girl, you know, and now we're like kind of like, eh. So my mind was blown when I was like, Peridium says that Nicole is his favorite player ever and was rooting for her to win. And so but yeah, I mean, again, I'm trying to dig. I think I dig through my head of like any sort of like strategic move she made. I think she had a pretty good social game. And I think it was, you know, at the time very inspiring for her to be forgiving and giving grace to these people who treated her so badly. But like strategically, and as we saw in All Stars, like I don't think her reads were always correct. And in some ways, Cliff both hindered her and helped her in strategy.
Yeah, I think it's funny. And I know, Isaiah, when we were doing the Bounce Checks podcast about Big Brother 24, we brought up a lot of the similarities between Big Brother 24 and Big Brother 21. And I never really tied the Nicole and Taylor similarity together because obviously they both faced extreme bullying. Taylor's was just rooted in something completely different than Nicole's was. But we got to see Taylor win. And it's like, that's kind of what we wanted from Nicole. But then we kind of look back and we're like, well, I guess Nicole was just like the only one we really felt like we could root for, where Taylor is just like everything we wanted to root for. And it's like we never get to see the person that we want to win come out on the other side and do it with such grace and poise and just be so great at the game. And I think that's what you want from your underdog. And I think that's really what we wanted for Nicole. And it almost feels like Taylor was in a similar situation as Nicole in the final 3 with Monty and Turner, who seemed like they were going to take each other. So it's an interesting juxtaposition. And I'm glad we got Taylor coming out on the other side, because looking back, Nicole probably wasn't the one that we wanted.
I'm sure, and this is what Cliff saw, is that if Holly leaves, Nicole's guaranteed final 2 at that point, because no one's going to want to sit next. Tommy, Cliff, and Jackson all did not want to sit next to each other. So yep. Nicole, he saw that and he got jealous and was like, hold on. Let me mess this up. That's the whole point. He did all that. Like,
I think you're right.
And it's come out in them interviews. He was scared that she was going to get final 2, so he needed to flip. He was trying to flip his own fate, and he thought, "Oh, Jackson Holly want to take me to the final 3." Like that. He was really playing with fire at that point. But like, yeah, if Nicole followed her gut and just followed through with that vote, she's guaranteed final 2 at that point. So does she win the jury vote? I don't know. Like,
I remember the jury being like, you never know with those jury segments. They're so all over the place, but they were giving her a lot of credit at her game toward the end.
Yeah. So what are you going to do? But lastly, I'm going to talk about the showmance. I believe this is, I want to say, and I don't count Taylor and Monty. I'm not going to even count that.
No.
This is
that never
one
happened.
of, yeah, exactly. This is one of 2 showmances ever to sit in the final 2. The other one being technically Boogie and Erica, but they weren't really like in All Stars 1, but they technically weren't really a showman, so it was very one sided. So I'm gonna say this is the first showman to get to the final two, if I'm being honest with you, with Holly and Jackson. They won a lot of competitions. That's what they did. Jackson, to give credit where credit is due, great competition player. I think the whole eavesdropping and flipping the vote on Tommy was very fun to see. And I think Holly also had a lot of good will as a comp player, but their strategic prowess was very bad. Their social games not good either. I think Holly was a better version of Annalise that could actually win stuff. And to be fair, before I get into a lot of the dark stuff, I'm not even gonna worry about that stuff just yet, because that's a whole lot of trauma for a lot of people to really unpack. But in game wise, they did what needed to be done. I think Grateful was such a bad alliance to the point that they really turn on each other instead of focusing their attention towards Holly and Jackson like they planned. So, kudos where kudos is due, and obviously Jackson wins and Holly wins. And before I get into the personal, because there's a whole lot of stuff I want to say about these two. How did we feel about these two in general, guys?
So I feel like there is a universe where Holly could have won against Jackson, because I kind of think it's like a Natalie White versus Russell. Like, people don't, I mean, Mickey is such like an unlikable person. And I think like if she kept her social game the same, and the only thing she did was maybe like did a little bit more jury management, undermined Jackson's like unlikability, maybe lied in goodbye messages and try to come off as more strategic, she could have had a chance. But again, like similar to like Brittany and Michael, I feel like Holly was just playing for second place. Like, I think with a few tweaks, she could have easily won, just because Mickey is so unlikable. But yeah, I mean, I will say, like, I think Holly's postseason has been really interesting. Like, I do believe in her growth. I think a lot of her treatment of people was like she was a bystander. She never stood up for people, but I don't know if she directly contributed to any of the meanness. So I actually do like Holly. And then Mickey, it's like, I mean, I think it's undeniable that he was like the best player of the season, even though he is so unlikable. Like, he made a lot of active strategic moves where he played like what was right in front of him rather than being reactive, and that's how he got to where he was. But oh my god, I don't know, one of the most unlikable winners of Big Brother. So
Jackson actually had my favorite moment of the season, though. Favorite moment when he won the game and he walks out and the credits are going and he's just like, "I'm not racist, mommy. I'm not racist. I'm not racist." Yes, you are. I don't like either of them. I'm not a fan, and that's all I got to say on those two.
Go ahead, Katie.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that Holly got so locked in with Jackson toward the end. I think there's a lot that we can say about their relationship in general, and once we get into some of the dark stuff, we could talk about that. But I think as a player, Holly was a little more strategic than I think she gets credit for, and I think she had good relationships with people like Christy and Tommy and Nicole, and I think and Cliff even at a point, and I think she probably could have done much better if Jackson wasn't in the house. I don't know if she would have gotten to final two, but I do think she had the potential to win the game if she wasn't sitting next to Jackson. I think she had a lot of friends in the jury house. It is unfortunate that Jackson is the best player this season. I mean, it is. I think it's undeniable that he is the best player. I think that move that I will never forget what happened with Tommy and Jackson and the eavesdropping, and I'll never forget just the feeds going down at the time of the house meeting and then never coming back, and we didn't know what was going to happen. I actually went to like a live event that night and did it was an RGP watch party back in like 2019, and nobody knew what was going to happen. No one knew who was going home, and there were a lot of like kind of exciting moments like that this season, like when Grateful broke up and the feeds leak happened and no one knew what was going. Like there was a lot of that.
Awesome.
So I'll put that as like a positive. Yeah, I'll put that as like a positive check for the season, is that we had a lot of unpredictability week over week in some areas, but yeah, I think it's just he was great at comps. freakishly great at comps. I mean, like, was literally peeing on himself in competitions. And when he won that slip and slide competition, and he was like, he had like a broken ankle or something, and he still was like running on a I mean, it was just like, it was like wild to watch. He's definitely one of my least favorite winners of all time. I was not rooting for him, but it's hard to say that he wasn't the best player that we saw this season.
You know, to give him credit, like but this was before Casey. Oh no, this was after Casey.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, are we just in this challenge-esque era here? Because you couldn't see the guy lose, and like him and Holly were so dangerous as a duo. Like they just kept winning things, and like I was so frustrated. I was like, why does this guy keep winning? And then Holly was a good sidekick, but I mean, they did what they had to do. Now,
I think there was like a month period where they didn't leave the HOH room. It was like either Jackson or Holly, Jackson or Holly, Jackson or Holly.
There.
That was like their room.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I have a quick question. So right now for the veto, it's like they pick and there's only 6 veto players. Was that the case in Big Brother 21 as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, never mind. I was like, maybe it was instated because Jackson was winning so many, but never mind.
Yeah.
I think he won, I don't remember how many HOHs he won, but I think he won like 6 vetoes or something. I think he is up there close to the record. Not as close as obviously Michael or Janelle, but I think like for either HOHs or vetoes, he's like right there.
So I looked it up. He won four HOHs and 4 vetoes, so a total of 8. Okay. And I think Michael won a total of 9, so maybe it was 2 HOHs and 7 vetoes.
Yeah, I think maybe 3 HOHs, something like that. But he tied Janelle, right? So Jackson was like right behind Janelle and Michael for comp wins. He was a beast.
Yeah. No, that being said, unfortunately, Holly, I do have some sympathy for Holly as a player. I feel like not without spending way too much time on this, because this is such a long podcast and it does need to be long. There's a whole showman's issue here where there's a whole lot of manipulation tactics here from Jackson. Specifically with things like not wanting to have sex when the cameras are around and just wait until after to get out the house, and Jackson starts pouting. I don't want to do that. We're breaking up. That was horrible. I had such a hard time seeing stuff like that. You got Jackson complaining that he's on slop, having a breakdown, and then having to sneak food into the shower just to eat, basically cheating. There was also the whole watermelon thing with Jackson, not to mention I think it was proven to be false, but people thought he said the N-word about David to Jack on Fees one time. There was the whole mistreatment with David in Kemi, but specifically David. He had a whole lot of comments to say about David. He did not like David. And then there's also the Kat Dunn situation where obviously they did what they did when feeds weren't on, and he treated her like crap ever since that ended. There a lot of problematic behavior here from Jackson, and I don't think we've seen a Jackson since. Luckily, I would hope that we never do get one. I want to say that, but then we just got Kyle last season, so it's like never say never. I would hope that we just stay away from this. I kind of wish he got penalized, but it was very hard to watch. So I do have a little sympathy for Holly. She has gone on some YouTube platforms. I forget the channel name, but there was this channel that brought a bunch of reality stars on to talk about their experiences, and it was interesting to see her talk about some of her regrets. And she was on with like Kylan and God, who was the other guy?
Coach was there. Coach was
there. Yeah, there was a whole lot of people, so it was interesting. But Jackson, I also don't want to forget to talk about how he had the TikTok situation, and him and Holly were going back and forth a lot.
Yeah, that was really rough. Really rough.
Him coming out saying that he had a drug problem before going in the house, and they still let him on. It was so.
He was like detoxing when he
bad.
Went in the house. Like he was he had an eating disorder he was dealing with at the time. He was, I think, on Xanax. I think, among other things. Like, I don't know, Isaiah, if you saw the TikTok of him like with the videos of his past where his like nose is bleeding. I mean, that was like jarring stuff to watch, and they still let him on the show, and it kind of like gives shades of Paloma a little bit, given like what happened with Paloma at the beginning of the season, where obviously there are things brewing with these people and it's just not healthy for them or the people that they're in the house with to be in that environment, and yet they still get on. Jackson was so much worse though, because he was literally actively detoxing from a drug that he was addicted to and dealing with an eating disorder while he's in the house, which then, you know, the show is just giving him watermelons, letting him eat on slop. Like they just let him get away with things that they would never let anybody else get away with, I think, because of those extenuating circumstances. And he lied to them to get on the show. So this was a really, really bad casting choice. Really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I can say a majority of this cast is a bad casting choice.
Yeah, but this was like dangerous. Like this was dangerous for him and his mental health, and the people around him put him in just in really, really bad situations.
Katie, he has abs, so he has to be cast
right, he has abs.
So
willing to be in a showman.
I don't want to get into the ethics of casting, but I feel like I am by bringing this up. But it's like, I wonder with like Paloma and Jackson and their psychological tests, like they do find something, but in the interest of drama,
I don't like that.
I know, and that's, I mean, this, I don't know if any of you guys ever saw Unreal. It was like a parody of like The Bachelor, but I don't know, like it worries me that folks who, you know, are not psychologically fit to be in the show are being brought on. So
yeah, it's a little scary, and I think we were hoping that with some of the casting changes, right, that like we were out of this era of Big Brother where people like this could get on the show, but then we saw it again with Paloma, and it was a lot of, again, like shades of Big Brother 21 and the bullying that was taking place against Kemi in the beginning of the season and Ovi, and it's just like, is this ever going to stop? Like there just has to be some changes up at the top of this show.
We literally said a lot during the Big Brother 24 recording that it had a lot of shades of BB21, just if it went the other direction, you know. So it's crazy to see, like only a couple years later, we're still kind of in that little era, but you know, it is what it is. But I mean, yeah. I mean, this is the season we have, guys. You know, like I said, possibly the worst. I think it is personally the worst cast Big Brother has ever performed with. But we can start getting to some of our closing topics. So, obviously, we have this answered, but you know, I'm going to ask it anyway. You know, we saw David and Nicole asked back if there is anyone that CBS just like, I want to see them back again. Who do we want to see back from this season?
I would love to see Ovi back. I think Ovi, with the right cast, could be a really great player. And I just think he got put in a really bad situation with a lot of really bad people. I think he might be the only one. I would love to see Kemi, but I know she wants nothing to do with the show. So that's the only reason I'm not saying her. Maybe Jess could be interesting.
Sure.
But that's it.
No.
I'm gonna hop on that bandwagon. I'm gonna just say Ovi and that's it.
Yeah, I'm with that too. How about you, Julia?
I feel like because we talked about this earlier, like I think Chrissy would be interesting because she's so self-interested. I think we would be annoyed that she's on her feeds, but I want to kind of see like the chaos again. But I don't really like that I'm saying that answer. I think that just shows you like how slim pickings.
Yeah, like look, I still want to see Big Brother eventually do heroes versus villains. And if they cannot get Vanessa, which I'm sure they will never get Vanessa back, because I personally am off of the Dan, Vanessa, Will train. I'm never expecting Derek too. I don't ever expect to see them play again. I know people have hope. I'm off of it. I never put them on any of my fan castings anymore. I've given up on that. I've had my feelings hurt too much. If I need a Vanessa-esque player, and I have to pick between Amanda and Christy, I'll take Christy. But there you go. So I guess one of the final questions that we have, because I mean, to be fair, we don't need to really gloss over fan reaction, and there's a lot that we can speak for itself. Overall, how does the season stand with the rest of its seasons? Is it in the top half? Is it in the middle half? Or is it in the low half? Like where are we with ranking Big Brother 21 ultimately?
think Jake is about to have a meltdown.
No, I'm looking down. I'm looking down to find it, and I can't see that far down.
Sorry, people.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, this is a bottom tier season.
Yeah.
But we did have some funny moments. I will say there were some funny moments, like chaos, just rooting for no one but chaos. Then like maybe this is your season, because like Taco Tuesday and like the chicken comp and all this other stuff. It was just like such a bizarre mess of a season, but it was really bad. It was bad.
Yeah, I think I always rate seasons in terms of fluidity and likability. So Big Brother 23 is extremely likable, very not fluid at all, and that's why I stopped watching. Like the episodes, but I still watch the feeds. And I think Big Brother 21's a lot higher in fluidity, and I always look for fluidity. But like literally bought like 24 out of 24 in likability. I've heard maybe Big Brother 9 is like really unlikable as well, but like extremely unlikable, fluidity really interesting. So like I don't know, if you want to like put something in the background and completely hate watch something, like this is your choice. But like anyone who rewatches this, like tell me why you're doing that. So
bless your soul if you want to put yourself through that.
Well, there you go. That's our review for Big Brother 21. Is this the long? This is probably the second longest one that we've done. Did not expect for it to go this long, but look, that's why I love this series. A whole lot of seasons to talk about. So if you're interested and love this podcast, please tune in next episode where we talk about Big Brother 20. We are going to be here every Sundays or Mondays. Follow me on Twitter at 8ballbangers to find out when we are doing these. But we are going to be back. I already have a panel ready for that one. Should be a very fun one. The more episodes you come out, the deeper we get to the older seasons. You're going to be seeing a whole lot of other collabs as well. We already did so many, and I'm enjoying all this. So thank you for tuning in. But we're going to start closing out. Katie, as always, thank you for coming. I'm sure you're going to be here plenty more episodes, but where can people find you? What are you into?
Yeah, you can give me a follow on Twitter at RealSomeKatie if you want to see me just tweet about nonsense. You can also follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/RealSomeKatie with an underscore at the end. You can also find me in a few other places on Silent Podcasts. Naomi and I just released our High Ground episode about the latest 2 episodes of Andor, the Disney Plus Star Wars series, which is truly incredible. Some of the best Star Wars that literally has ever come out ever. So watch it if you're not, and then listen to us to hear what we think about it. You can also hear me on TJ Hates Quitters talking about the challenge with Carrie, and you can hear me on the Cool Water Show talking about Housewives with Carrie. And we are doing one final episode of Fire and Pod, our House of the Dragon recap. Chanel, Javier, and myself are going to do a final tier list ranking of all the characters and just give our overall season 1 thoughts coming up this Tuesday. So check us out on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Okay. Jake, thank you for coming through as well. We're going to continue our Marvel stuff. I have so many opinions I want to talk about, but where can people find you, and where you get into?
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. You can follow me on Twitter at JakeGoesOnline, where I tweet about the universe. I don't know. And then you'll see me in a Marvel podcast and hopefully back for some other ones.
All right. And Julia, as always, thank you for coming. And where can people find you when you're into?
People can find me on Facebook, because I am not going to go on Twitter because of that man who just bought it. So yeah.
Okay. And I respect it. And lastly, you can find me at 8ballbangers like usual. And on a bunch of podcasts over here. Like I said, more Big Brother content while we are waiting for Big Brother Canada, since we do not have celebrity, unfortunately. You can find me later this week on I Don't Know About That with Gia Worthy, talking about Survivor. That would be a fun time. You can also find me on the Bitter Jurors podcast very soon. We are also collabing, so that's going to be a good time. Purple Pants podcast with Bryce Isaiah, talking about music, and a bunch of stuff over here talking about Total Drama Island. We're talking about Marvel movies itself. Talking about too much stuff, if I'm being honest with you. But
Love is Blind. Plug your Love is Blind podcast. It's
I
so
was
good.
just about to say the Love is Blind podcast. Me, Abby, we're recording tomorrow. I have so many thoughts, but if you cannot wait, go over to RHAP with I guessed it on Asia and Mary's podcast to talk about that there. And they got me access to the early episodes and all that. It was crazy. So much love to them. If you want to hear me podcast still, I'm not done tonight. Me and Nicole are going to be talking about what happened in the last 2 weeks. So you can find me on the Isaiah and Nicole show directly after this. I'm going to have my girlfriend come on. So that's
Oh my
going to be
God, how
wild.
cute.
Yeah. But all right. So until next time, next week, to talk about Big Brother 20, have a good one. Bye.